Yo, what is good, man? It's your boy Demi. I'm back on another YouTube video. If you guys are new, please hit the subscribe button because I know a good percent of you aren't subscribed. And make sure you enjoy the video, and let's get into today's topic. So basically, Gary Trent Jr. last season, he got traded for Norman Powell for when he was here in Tampa. And basically, the guy went off. He was basically shooting threes. He can give you a good 15, 10 points a night. And this guy basically what we need in our roster for basically defense and for size at the shooting guard position. But when looking back at the Raptors and Portland Trailblazers trade for Gary Trent and Norman Powell, basically the Portland Trailblazers shit on themselves. The reason why they shit on themselves was because they basically traded their almost player with best potential and their youngest player in Gary Trent Jr. for basically nothing for Norman Powell, who was a good player at the time for the Raptors. He's a good bench player. But then they traded him to the Clippers, and basically it then led for Gary Trent Jr. being traded for nothing. And basically, Gary Trent, he had very good potential. I remember watching him in the bubble. He's basically guarding players like LeBron James. He was guarding players like Anthony Davis. He's basically guarding the team's best player. And he basically was a good 3-and-D guy you'd want on the court. As for Gary Trent Jr., he's an inch taller than Norman Powell, as he's 6'5", and Norman Powell is 6'4". That's what you need in a roster. So Gary Trent, he's a good ad for his team, and we got what he wanted in getting another shooting guard with height and versatility, and Gary Trent Jr. brings that on both ends of the court, whether that's on offense or that's on defense. Honestly, for Gary Trent Jr., going from the Tampa season to the next season into last season versus when he played the 76ers, the guy Trent basically light a firecracker on them for when he came back. I know he started off a bit rusty, and the reason why he played a bit rusty because he wasn't feeling well, and he was dealing with COVID-like symptoms that he had a high fever, and basically it all made sense toward the end of the day. And then when Trent Jr. came back, he basically just shit on the Philadelphia 76ers and basically got like a good 15, 20 points a game per night. And he basically, to how he was basically in the regular season to when he got you 15 points a night. And Gary Trent Jr. basically locked up a team's best offensive player. And he'll just bring it on defense and offense. So Gary Trent Jr. he'll give you what you need. And then in the regular season, we already know we expected him in the playoffs. He just basically had a slow start, and then he just picked up from there when he came back in the playoffs. And though the Raptors got eliminated in 6 games, they're wondering where Gary Trent Jr. would be entering his contract year. And then Gary Trent Jr. on media day, I saw him on media day. He basically entered the media room with like his hair not done. He looked really tired. He looked very quiet, but he very knew what his role was for being on the Raptors this season. That's really good. And he basically knows his role, but I think honestly, he basically kind of left out on his team because he's not being talked a lot. He's not being talked a lot around the league. And I basically say he's an odd man out because Gary Trent Jr., he's an assassin on both ends of the court. What he does, he can basically shoot threes, he can play defense, and he basically can pass a little bit, and can basically be a tricky shooter you need on the court. Basically, how I compare Gary Trent Jr., he's basically like a J.R. Smith because he's basically like a J.R. Smith but a bit better on defense because he can basically do many things for you. He can create his own shot. He can facilitate a little bit. He can play good defense and he made good improvements on the ball for last season. And Gary Trent Jr. can basically be a lockdown defender but a tricky shooter. Like honestly, I think he's like the next modern day J.R. Smith, though he's not really a drug addict. Basically, Gary Trent Jr. is the assassin of all nightmares. For Gary Trent Jr., when he came to media day, he basically had confidence. And this guy, basically how I think this guy is, he's basically not playing the league. And if you underrate Gary Trent Jr. and basically involve him for trade talk with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or anything else otherwise, he'll basically get shit on you. Like, honestly, his trade value right now is at an all-time high because the Raptors, I know they want to keep him because he's young and they basically can use him for a superstar and a player, for example, like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And Gary Trent Jr. basically gives you everything on both sides of the court. And I basically thought when he came to media day, I thought he didn't want to be here, but I think for Gary Trent Jr., he's just getting back into the flow of things, and he's going to be his regular self. And then on media day, basically a reporter asked a stupid question asking about the Raptors starters and having a tough time adjusting to a lineup after their preseason game.
Nick was saying the starters had a rougher time of it during the week, but tonight you guys seem to have your way. No?
That's a question or a statement.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Good.
But yeah, man, Gary Trent Jr., he knows his role, he knows what he has to do on his team, he knows what it takes to be a good player, and he's basically getting more minutes than how he would be in Portland, and he just basically capitalizing on his role and just taking off from there. And Gary Trent Jr., for his stat prediction half of the season, he'll basically probably get you about 17 or 20 points a game, and basically get you about like 2 or 3 assists a night and basically just get you like a steal or 2 per game. That's pretty much it. And basically just be an anchor on the defensive end. And there's not really much else for Gary Trent Jr. because he's a very polished player. And he basically sent a message to the league that he's not playing. He wants to get better and he just wants to focus on himself and the team. That's pretty much it. And yeah, that's all I gotta say about Gary Trent Jr. because he's a very humble guy. He's a very confident player, and he knows what it takes to be in this Raptors team. And I bet he's basically sending a message to the league, and the Raptors are a good team, and he can play with anybody. Like, for example, the Raptors aren't against teams over 500. They played pretty good, and they're not playing this year. I know for the Raptors, they're going to have a good record, and they started the regular season, and they started the preseason off pretty well, so I think they're going to capitalize on that. And that's really it on my thoughts on Gary Trent Jr. Basically, just to summarize that he's not playing, he's on a mission this season, and he basically wants to make good improvements for himself and for his team. I think Gary Trent Jr. basically just capitalizing on what he did last season. That's pretty much it. And there's not really nothing else to talk about for Gary Trent. I just wanted to do this video on Gary Trent and what I expect from him in this season. And yeah, I basically give a point prediction and his role in the team. And yeah, that's really it. And it's your boy Demi. Make sure you hit that like button, comment, and subscribe, and I'm out. Peace.